My name is Rachel Gill. Some of you may know me as Pinky Tuscadero if you've listened to my music. I started this thing called DBT Peer Connections to teach my peers skills, training those who can't get into therapy or are waiting to get into therapy or don't have a therapist in their area. So I'm not a professional. I'm not licensed to practice psychology. So anything that you learn in this video, you accept at your own risk, and you won't hold me liable. Thanks. Okay. So if you'd like to also get a hold of me and give me some recommendations, or if you'd just like to connect with me, you can also reach me in any of these any of these contacts. You can email me at ilovedbt@gmail.com, or you can check out my website at ilovedbt.com, where you'll find lots of worksheets and handouts and poems and all that kind of stuff. Or you can follow me on Twitter at DBT Peers. Also, we have a Facebook page and a peer group that you can request to join. It's a closed group. So I hope we can connect together sometime in the future. And if we don't, well, hey, we're still friends. Okay, so if you've seen some of our earlier videos, you've already seen the core mindfulness. In the modules, we have core mindfulness, then we have distress tolerance, then we have emotion regulation, and we have interpersonal effectiveness. Today we'll be covering distress tolerance skills. There's two separate acronyms that make up the skill sets of the distress tolerance, and those go for accepts and improve skills. So we start out with activities, and we have contributing, comparisons, emotion opposites, pushing away, thoughts, and sensations, which includes self-soothe with the senses. In the improved skills, we have imagery, meaning, prayer, relaxation, one thing at a time, vacation, and encouragement. And we'll be going over all of these skills today. So before we get started, let's ask ourselves this question: why is learning distress tolerance skills useful? Well, distress tolerance skills uses a variety of distraction and relaxation techniques to help you get through a crisis where your automatic responses to intense emotions may now make things worse. For me, I have borderline personality disorder, and I have really intense emotions. And so if you are like that and you have really a strong emotional sensitivity, then you might find these skills useful to helping you get through a difficult moment or situation where you might be conditioned to react in an extreme way, and that's not helpful, or you undo unnecessary suffering. So now there's another key point that's really important to remember, or that to get clear, is the how is distracting different from avoiding? Okay, they are different, and they're very because they have similar properties. It's really important for us to be aware of the differences, so that we can make sure that we're using our distract as a skill instead of using our avoiding, which is a target behavior. I am an avoider extraordinaire since I've gotten some of my target behaviors, my kind of like harmful target behaviors, under control. Avoiding seems to be my number one thing that I'm working on right now. So the difference between distracting and avoiding is that distracting is a skill used when a problem that you cannot solve right now is causing you distress. So let's say, tomorrow I have a meeting with somebody, then it's a really important meeting, right? But I can't sleep, and I'm just like up all night, kind of tossing and turning and going, oh, just worrying and worrying and worrying. Well, I can't solve the problem in the middle of the night, right? And I can't do anything about it until I go to the meeting the next day. So that would be a time when distracting would be appropriate. On the other hand, Avoiding is where one attempts to hide or escape distress caused by a problem that could be solved if confronted. So let's say that I had a meeting right now, right? And I was really nervous about it, and I didn't want to go because I was just like frozen, or I got too panicky, or something happened, and I was and I kind of just didn't go. Well, that would be avoiding, because I could have solved the problem if I would have confronted it, but because I didn't confront it, then I was avoiding. So the big difference is whether or not you can solve the problem. If you can solve it, then you are probably going to want to just solve it instead of avoid target behavior. And if you cannot solve it and you're just like kind of spinning your wheels, then distracting is where this comes in really handy. So let's start with pros and cons. Um, you want to make a pros and cons list for tolerating the distress, and another pros and cons list for not tolerating the stress. Here's a few examples. Like the pros of tolerating the stress might be like, I will get through crisis without making things worse. That's pretty cool. And cons might be, using your skills might not always work. Depending on your degree of vulnerability factors, are you tired? Do you have excess stress? Are you in the middle of a move, or changing a job, or do you have money problems? All of those types of things can lend to your vulnerability. And if you are exceptionally vulnerable, then your skills, where they usually work, they might not work, or they might not work at all for you. I don't know how often that's the case, but I just want you to know that sometimes they don't work. So you got to be prepared for that too. But what are the pros and cons of not tolerating the stress? So the pros of not tolerating the stress is that, well, you don't have to feel hopeless if your skills don't work, because you're already hopeless, maybe. The cons of not tolerating the stress is that you will not find more effective ways to cope without trying out new ways. So unless you try out new things, you're going to kind of be stuck in the problem behavior that, whatever your target behavior might be. And you can download a pros and cons sheet at my website on ilovedbt.com, and it'll land you on the first page, and you'll see tons of handouts and worksheets. So if you scroll down, you'll find one on pros and cons, so that you can figure out the pros and cons of tolerating distress. Or you can just download it and use it for any type of situation where you need pros and cons, because they sure do come in handy. But that's a different... Okay, so now let's go to my exercise. So for distressing problems that you can't solve in the moment, you might try distracting yourself by counting your breath. Now, the reason that counting your breath is helpful is because, one, when you're deliberately paying attention to slowing your breath, your physiological reaction, your physical actions of your body slow also. So when you slow down in your breathing, and your body actually follows suit. And by counting, you're kind of distracting your brain in a neutral way, So if you're like me and you have spinning thoughts that are going, 1,000 miles an hour, 24/7, then you might find this useful, because your counting will help you keep out of your whatever distressed mind, your emotion mind. So when we start to do the counting exercise, as we're doing mindful breathing, we want to start at 1, and we want to count to 10. If we get to 10, we just start over. And if you get distracted by your thoughts, then you want to start over also. If you notice your thoughts drifting away from your breath, start over at 1. Do this until your distress lessens, and try not to judge yourself. If it's difficult to concentrate, because this is not easy to learn. I mean, it seems really simple, like, oh yeah, just breathe, but unless you're, just like anything that you learn new, it's going to take some time. So, if you get a little frustrated, it's okay to be frustrated. Just don't take it out on yourself, please. And another really, really important thing to keep in mind too is it doesn't matter if you count to 10. You know, the goal is to reduce your level of distress. You know, the goal is not to count to 10. So if you're like sitting there and you're like breathing and you're like trying to get to 10, or before we get to the end of the exercise, then you're not going to get the best benefit out of it, because ultimately what we're trying to do is to reduce your stress level. Um, so and there's going to be a little video that shows like a kind of an animated blue kind of balloon type thing, and you can follow that to to help you guide your inhale and your exhale. But it's not necessary that you do that, and please go at your own pace with the goal of trying to slow your breath down. I want you to put your feet on the floor, your back straight. You want to keep your eyes open, ideally, because this is mindfulness. So, and Marsha Linehan, the founder of DBT, says mindfulness is living with your eyes wide open. So, open your eyes. Kind of keep them downcast, maybe a little bit, and in one spot. You're kind of trying to create a sense of stillness as you're breathing. So, we'll start with ringing the mindfulness bell 3 times. Then we'll breathe, doing the counting. You can do it out loud or you can do it in your head. I'm going to do mine in your head, mine in my head, and then we'll just follow the breathing. And then when you hear the bell ring just once again, then we'll be done with our minds. So let's go ahead. Stay in the moment. Keep counting your breaths. Now, how did it go for you guys? I actually started breathing and I totally forgot that I was supposed to be counting. So I had already taken like 4 breaths before I realized I wasn't counting. So you see how like staying mindful in present in the moment, whether it's counting your breath or just noticing your breath going in and out, it takes a lot of concentration. Um, but one thing I also noticed was that my distress level went down, my anxiety level went down. Did you notice anything? Try it again. Okay, so now that we are in our wise mind, let's go ahead and get to starting our skills training. So first we're going to go activities, contributing, comparisons, emotion opposites, pushing away, thoughts, and sensations. First, we'll start with the accept skills, and the first one is activities, A for activities. So, activities as a distraction is you want to do an activity that effectively distracts you from making a crisis worse and or from engaging in self-destructive behaviors if you have any target behaviors. um, Now, these activities can be anything. Ideally, you want it to be something you enjoy or excuse me, that you can get easily lost in. For me, that happens to be music. So when, for instance, I had this really rough patch with a loved one in my family, and I was just really upset about it, and I just kept like stewing on it, and this loved one had already like been here and had gone like the day before, and I'm still awake from the night before, just stewing, and I'm going, oh my gosh, this is really distressing. What am I going to do? So I decided to pick up my guitar, and I picked up my guitar, and I just kind of just started playing, just kind of, impromptu, was singing, kind of like validating myself, and incorporating some of my feelings into the music. And 2 hours later, 2 hours just went by, and I was like, whoa, what happened? And by the time I was done, I was totally regulated and able to go to sleep. So you want it to be something that catches your attention and that speaks to you personally, and that can be readily accessible. So, because if you're somebody who goes from, a kind of a baseline to extremely, extremely dysregulated in a short amount of time, like I do, having borderline personality disorder, you want to try to keep your activities something that you can do immediately or that's easily accessible, so that you don't have to like do a lot of planning or anything, because when you're in crisis, that's not probably where you're going to be able to be doing a lot of planning and stuff. So here's a few examples that you might try. You could go for a walk. I know for me, I like to separate from people when just for a very brief moment if I get too dysregulated, because I can't engage effectively unless I'm in a relatively, calm state for, me. So, I'll ask like my fiance, can you just leave the room for 2 minutes and then we can get back to this? And it's okay to like, to take a little break, just to give yourself some space so that you can get yourself calm. That's perfectly reasonable. In fact, that's very wise. So going for a walk might help you achieve that. Another thing you could do is clean your house. Sometimes, expending that extra energy physically will help you like keep distracted away from problems you can't solve in the moment. If you're into video games, you could try video games. I'm not too into video games, so I can't speak to this one, but I know there's some of you out there who do like video games, so maybe this is a way that you can distract. But be careful, because you don't want to use it as an avoidance too, because sometimes things we like can also be avoiding, can also work in ways that cause us to avoid. So be very mindful and clear, if it's something that you have like video games, for instance, if you have a tendency to play and lose track of time, then set yourself a time limit before you get started. That way, you won't get lost and go from healthy distracting into unhealthy avoidance. You can also do gardening. My mom and my sisters are really into gardening. And so if you're into that, that might be a good way for you to distract. You could listen to music. That's mine. Of course, I make music and I listen to music. But one thing to keep in mind when you're listening to music is, the idea is that we want to distract. So let's say your crisis situation has to do with your boyfriend or, your girlfriend. Well, if you're going to listen to music, you're probably not going to want to listen to something that's about breakups, if you're having a breakup or if you're having a fight, you don't want to have about, two fighting it, because that's may serve to just intensify it for you. It may not, but I know for me that it can be kind of a slippery slope. So, try listening to music that maybe prompts an other emotion, like, something like if you're feeling sad, you might want to try something that's like upbeat, like some old 50s rock and roll or something like that. If you're feeling like angry or something, you might want to listen to kind of like a a kind of like a soft, sad song, maybe, or, Weird Al is always good because he's funny, and for me, I like humor is a really good emotion for me to prompt because I tend to polarize in the other direction so far. So just keep in mind that, what we're trying to do is we're trying to distract. So we don't want to do activities that are going to help us get more intensely, into whatever our crisis or our situation is that we're trying to distract from. You can watch a movie. I love to watch movies. I've been like watching the Lost series on Netflix, and I'm almost done with it. But movies are a great way to escape for a moment. But again, be mindful. Do your DBT homework. Okay, so I'm a real nerd and I love to do DBT homework. I make worksheets and I've made some diary cards for some of my peers. And so if you're kind of a nerd and you're proud and you love your DBT homework, then do your DBT homework. That's what I like to do. Play sports. If you're athletic, sports is a really great way to alleviate distress because when we engage in physical activity, our body releases like beta endorphins and like oxytocin, and those hormones are like mild. They relax us basically. So anytime you can do some physical exertion. When you're distressed, you're gonna probably likely see your distress go down. I usually do, but I don't exercise enough, and that's something I really would like to work on in my own personal DBT path, is putting more exercise into my routine. Write a poem. This is something that is really, 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 really helpful for me. You see, I didn't realize it recently that before I got into DBT, writing poetry was like my only really, and music was like my only really effective ways of coping with distress. But I didn't realize how much they were vehicles for me to express myself emotionally, because I have a hard time doing that because I always want to punish my emotions or hate my emotions. I'm working on loving them right now. But, so writing a poem was a way for me to self-validate. And you don't have to be a poet. This isn't for anybody else. This is for you. So, if you want to try this, just sit down with a piece of paper and a pencil, or at your computer, and just start writing whatever comes to your mind. It doesn't matter if it makes sense or not. Just start writing it and see what you come out with. You might be really surprised and you might see something really beautiful. If anything, you're expressing yourself and you're validating yourself, even if you're not like doing it in a linear fashion. For me, it's really powerful. So if you think you're not a creative person, just give it a try. You might be surprised. Read an entertaining book, or as Marsha Linehan calls it, get a schlocky book. So this could be like, I used to read the Anne Rice vampire novel back in the day, or what else did I used to read? Oh, geez, I don't know. Now all I read is clinical manuals, but that's probably not a good, well, maybe it is, but it's a good distraction for me, but maybe it isn't for you. So, you want to get something that's entertaining, or that, really catches your attention, or, maybe it's a People magazine or something, just anything that will grab your attention away and that will draw your attention into it, in just a healthy, distracting way. Call or visit a friend. This is always a really good one. Now, the key to keep in mind when you're going to visit a friend is that, if you're if you're trying to distract from a crisis and you go to visit a friend, you're probably not going to want to start going into talking about whatever the situation of your distress is, because if you're like me, and if you have BPD or, similar emotion regulation problems, you might find that instead of, your intensity of your distress go up because you're engaging in talking about it. So, go see a friend that really is distracting. I have a really great friend who is always got 10 things going at once. She's always got me brushing her hair, or putting a sweater on her dog, or calling her, answering her phone, or and so I like to go see her when I'm distressed because she will like totally get me busy to where I'm like not thinking about what I'm doing, or I'm just helping her do her tasks. And yeah, so if you have a friend like that, that's great. I love you to mama. If you're, um, so see, you probably don't want to see somebody that you maybe have heart to hearts with, because you might be tempted to go into the crisis situation. But that's not the goal here. The goal here is to gently distract for a small, for a short time until you're in a point where you can actually solve the problem. Like if you have a meeting the next day, then tomorrow, when your meeting is, then you can solve it. Um, you can go window shopping. Some people like to go shopping, but we're not really trying to reward ourselves as much as we're just trying to take a time out. And in order to do that, we're trying to find something to take up to distract us, because time can go really, really slow when you're miserable, right? Okay, so those are just a few activities. Of course, you might have ones that are different, and I encourage you to try whichever speaks to you, because ultimately this is your process. So that's the great thing about DBTs. It's flexible, in that it has a clear, definite structure, but the structure is flexible enough to where it can adapt to the individual. So do what works for you when in doubt. So let's move on to the next skills. So we have contributing, um, which is you can do volunteer work, make or do something nice for someone else, give something to someone without expecting anything in return. So like right now, what I'm doing with this video would be considered contributing, because it's very dear to my heart, in that, contributing to my peers, who I know are probably, a lot of you are struggling trying to get into a program, or your environment is invalidating. You think it's all your fault and that you're messed up. Well, you know what? You're not. You're an awesome person, and you just need some support. And so for me, contributing is a really powerful way for me to distract, and it gives me a sense of purpose, and helps me build a life worth living, which is just really, really freaking awesome. Comparisons. Compare your life to those less fortunate than you, or compare yourself now to a time when you were worse off. Read about others' suffering. So we're not trying to like rub it into other people have things worse than us. We're just trying to put some distance between our own suffering, and and being able to recognize that there are other people or situations out there that are worse off than right now. Like for me, I tend to use the compare myself now to a time when I was worse off. Every once in a while I'll have like a tough moment, because I've been in DBT for 4 years now, and I'll have like a particularly hard day, and I'll be feeling like really down on myself, and I'll be having urges to like, engage in the negative self-talk, or punish myself in various ways. So to kind of like counteract that, I'll like go, you know what? Where was I at this time, 2 years ago? And now where am I today? Look at the difference in how I would have responded to this situation back then and how I am now. Holy smokes, I've come a long ways. Sure, maybe I'm not exactly to where I want to be with my goals, and I'm making progress. And so, I accept myself. This is who I am, and this is how I am. And even though things are not perfect right now, they could be worse, and they are getting better, or they will get better, because ultimately, our moods are always changing. So if we're in a sad mood or an angry mood or whatever, and it's really intense, and we're feeling like we can't take it or whatever, just remember, all emotions eventually pass. No emotion stays forever. So if you're able to like find a way to tolerate it and experience it, in the best way that you can process it without, reacting in a extreme way, then that's going to be a good thing for you. The next skill we have is opposite emotions. I like this one. So you want to do something that prompts the opposite emotion you are feeling. For example, if you're sad, you might watch a funny movie. And I do this a lot. I like to sometimes I like to do like this really goofy cat dance for my cat. I'll cross my eyes and do like this prospector like hee hee like hoedown thing, and it's funny because my cat just looks at me like I'm like totally just what, and it makes me laugh. So laughter can be a really powerful medicine when you're having extreme intense emotions that are going towards the other side of the spectrum. So prompt yourself. Get a funny movie, or tell a joke, or watch something funny, or call somebody that that is really good at cracking you up. Um, prompt an emotion opposite of what you're feeling to help kind of tip the scales a little bit. Um, let's move on to the next skills. So first we have pushing away. Now, pushing away is like you want to push the distressing situation away for a while. Imagine a wall between the situation, or putting your pain into a box and up on a shelf, out of your sight and out of your mind. Um, Now, the thing about pushing away is we're not repressing it, we're not pushing it down and stuffing it down and leaving it there. We're just gently putting it aside for the moment until we can either get ourselves regulated, or we can actually do something that we can solve the problem. So it's a temporary thing, and I really like the idea of putting it on a shelf, because for me, I tend to have this sense, or this reaction of like, when somebody is telling me, just put it away, that I'm thinking like, well, it's kind of invalidating, to my experience. So when I visualize, yes, this is really distressing, and that's why I'm going to just put it up on the shelf a little bit, and I imagine sitting it up on this really high shelf, whatever my worry is, and just letting it stay, not looking at it, not giving it any attention until I can either solve it, or I'm in a calm enough state to actually think about it. So you might have a different visualization, but the idea is just to kind of gently put it aside, and do it on your terms. Now, if somebody else is telling you you need to put it away, you need to put it aside, that's what they want you to do, and that's what's got us in trouble all in the past is always being so concerned about what other people's feelings are, and letting our feelings be based upon how other people feel. So, we want to kind of break out of that. This isn't about what other people want us to do or what other people want us to feel. This is all about what we need and what we need to feel in order for us to, become the best and most happiest, or most effective person we can be, and get the most out of life. So, if you're going to push away something, do it on your own terms, not on other people's terms, please. Thoughts. So thoughts are a way to get yourself from the distressing situation temporarily. Like, for instance, we just did the counting your breath. That's one way to do it. You can count colors. You can see shapes, people, trees. So right now, let's say I need to distract. So let's say I'm going to count circles. So let me see. Oh, there's 1, there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, there's another one. 8, 9, 10. So you see, like as I'm doing that, like I totally just you get into it, because it's a task that hand. And when you're doing a kind of like intensive task where it's like you're engaged, it's gonna be harder for you to stay in whatever it is that you're thinking about. In this case, it would be this crisis, something that's causing you crisis. So and then this last one, intense sensations. This is a really, really good skill for those of you who are just starting to learn how to, or trying to stop your target behaviors. If you have like self-harming type behaviors, this is a good way for you to start stepping down out of that. I used I used the holding ice like a lot. That was one that was really powerful for me. I also took I still take the hot cold showers, like when I get ready to leave, because I have agoraphobia and panic disorder too. So for me, the intense sensations help like bring me into the present, like whew. And there is a little bit of reason why that why self-harming is so salient, is because it's so effective. I mean, when we're like exerting ourselves, or if we have like an injury or something, our body like immediately sends these like pain relievers to our wherever the site is in our body, so that there is a self-regulating factor involved in the self-harm that is biological. That you know I mean, for me, it was, a big part of it was that it would distract me from my emotional pain. you know so there was that, and because the intensity of the physical pain it caused, it was a really powerful distraction. Unfortunately, it's also really dangerous. It could cost me my life, and I don't want that. And I don't want that for you either. So if you hold ice cubes, it'll still hurt like hell. Believe that, it will still hurt. But when you're done, you're not going to have any injuries. You're not going to have to be worried about, any of your loved ones taking you to the hospital or anything. Um, so it'll give you the same kind of like intense sensation, but without hurting yourself. So you could also listen to loud music. Not too loud though. You don't want to blast your eardrums out. Put a rubber band around your wrist and snap it. I like that one. That was one I used a lot when I was first getting control over my target behaviors. Clap your hands really hard and loud as possible. One of my peers had me try that, and you'd be surprised how like much it stings if you try to clap your hands as loud as you can. Eat a hot pepper. I like wasabi. That I like to keep a little bit of wasabi, and like if I'm like feeling like all angered up, I'll just go get a little bit and just like, whoa, okay, yeah, that'll do it. That'll take the edge off. So you want to use some sort of intense sensations that will draw you out of wherever you're at with your crisis, but not so much that you're going to end up hurting yourself, because we don't want that. Definitely don't want that. Um, so now we're going to do the improved skills. We have imagery, meaning, prayer, relaxation, one thing at a time, vacation, and encouragement. Now let's start with imagery. So imagery is about using your imagination to help you get into a more relaxed, calm state of mind. You can imagine a relaxing scene, coping well, hurtful emotions draining out of you like water from a spout. I like the idea of being on an ocean. Like I'm floating out on an ocean, right? And the ocean is like my emotions, right? And it's a storm, and I'm being tossed around all over the place. Well, instead of like trying to fight the water, or struggle against it, or because you can't fight an ocean. If an ocean's an ocean, the best thing you can do is just roll with it. So when I'm having some really intense distress and I can't seem to get my mind out of it, rather than trying to like fight against it, I will just let it happen. I'm imagining myself, okay, the emotions, I'm floating on my emotions, and whoa, here comes a big swell. Whoa, that's a big wave. Wow, okay, I'm just gonna hold on. Here we go. And it goes down a little bit, and then I'm like kind of bobbing up, and then here I go again. And you're kind of following the emotion, letting it happen, but not resisting and not getting involved in it, just noticing it and letting it go through its course. And this one is maybe a little bit of an advanced skill, but it's good to start trying it now. Being mindful to your emotion is a powerful skill, and we all need to learn to come to terms with our emotional sensitivity. If you're emotionally sensitive, you're probably always going to be that way, and that's okay, because you know what, it might have its downsides, and it also has its upsides too. So learning to be able to tolerate your emotions and let them happen. And this is a lot simpler than it sounds, because I struggle with this. Believe me, I struggle with this. But being able to do that is you're letting go of a lot of suffering. I know when I'm able to do it. Oh, I used to go to the hospital sometimes because my stomach would get so knotted up when in moments like really intense moments of distress, like when my friend committed suicide years back. I ended up going to the hospital. When my grandma died, I ended up going to the hospital. When I was went to foster home, I went to the hospital. And this like a couple years ago, I was starting to have those stomach pains again. And instead of instead of fighting it or rolling around and I just said, okay, I'm just going to breathe. I'm just going to breathe into it, and I'm just going to breathe into it until it goes away. I had to do it for 4 hours, but you know what? I did not go to the hospital, and I have not been to the hospital since. So just a little food for thought. Anyways, so the next one we have is meaning. Now, meaning is about finding or creating meaning from your pain by focusing on how hope can come from painful situations. So, like this, what I'm doing right now, making these videos for my peers, that has a lot of meaning for me, because I remember when I was first getting involved in trying to get into DBT, it was so hard. I mean, I literally had to sue the state to get into the program. So I'm being like rejected as I'm having these intense, I'm having all these problems with suicidal behaviors, and then I'm asking for help, and they're telling me, no, you have to prove that you're messed up, and I'm going, ah. And so, part of me gaining some mastery is that, I want to return what has been given to me. And then when Marcia came out and admitted that she had been spent time in the psychiatric ward, that changed everything for me. In fact, that almost changed my life as much as the skills did, because where I'd had self-doubt, because I was actually thinking about becoming a therapist. Now I know I'm going to become a therapist, but I had doubts. I was going, oh, it's not going to take me seriously with all my health problems. Da, da. And then when Marcia came out and said that she had that, I said, oh my gosh, you know what? Maybe I'm actually the perfect person for this job. And it gave me a sense of purpose and meaning. So you people inspire me, and I'm so thankful to have that. And I just hope that you can find some usefulness in some of these videos I create, because they're made with love, and they mean and it means a lot to me to be able to provide this to other people, so that maybe they can learn skills and not have to go the same amount of suffering that I did trying to get into a program. And then prayer. Now, prayer is all about, whatever your spiritual faith is. There's no, yes, granted that DBT comes from, there's kind of some Zen teachings in there. There's also contemplative prayer, because Marcia Linehan, she's a Catholic and also a Zen master. So it's like, this is about connecting to your own spirituality. We're not, DBT isn't trying to push any ideas on you, but prayer is a powerful thing. And when you have faith in something, it's the opposite of hopelessness, right? So whether it is the Great Spirit, God, Allah, the Goddess, Tao, your wise mind, whatever your spiritual connection may be, find a way to connect with it in prayer. For me, I like to burn sweetgrass and sage, to connect to kind of my Native American heritage, and go to a sweat lodge. I've only got to go once, but it was really awesome, and I really want to go back. But you want to connect it to whatever is deeply valuable to you in your own life and what you connect to, and then find a way to pray, and that will help you build more faith and stave off. So now we're moving on to the ROV in the improve. And the first one is relaxation. Now, relaxation is all about, you guessed it, relaxing. So one thing that works really well for me, as being somebody who's really high strung with a lot of anxiousness and anxiety, rolling around all times a day, using progressive muscle relaxation is a good way to help you just to become more mindful of your tenseness. So the idea is that when you're doing the progressive muscle relaxation, as you're doing your inhale, you're tightening your muscle. You're doing each muscle group separately. So let's say we'll start with our hands, right? So you'll want to tense your hands up into a fist, and make them just as tight as you can as you're breathing in. And then when you breathe out, just let them go all the way. So what happens when you do that is your where your tenseness was, it will, as you let go, as you tense it really tight, and then when you let go, it actually causes the muscle to go further in the relaxed state, because you went so far in the tense state. It's like a dialectic for your muscle. So and then you want to do like every part of your body, from your tips of your toes to your heels to your ankles to your facial muscles and your eyebrows and your mouth and your neck and your chin, and go over every bit of your body. Now this one you can do sitting up, but I tend to do it laying down when I'm like going to sleep, because that tends to be like when I need the most relaxation and when I tend to be the most tense. And I was really surprised when I started doing this, like how much tension I held in my body that I really wasn't even aware of. Like my jaw, like I'm always like when I'm in a really particularly full of anxiety, my jaw will just like get tight, and I'll like be like, why is my neck hurting? So it'll help you build awareness as you're learning to relax. So, and the next one is one thing at a time. Now, one thing at a time is something that is a really good one for, like, if you're stuck in something like, let's say you're worried about the past, or you're thinking about the past as somebody that you just broke up with and you were still in love with them, and you just keep being in the past, and you're being pulled into the past and past misery, because right now is now, and the past you can't change. So causing, dwelling on it is just going to cause yourself to suffer more, and that's not any good for you. So by doing one thing at a time, we can bring ourselves into the present. You want to focus your entire attention on a single task, bringing your mind and body away from multitasking to attend to every detail of whatever process you are doing, and only that process. So I tend to use one thing at a time when I'm getting ready to leave the house. So I have a panic disorder and agoraphobia. So for me, this is like probably one of my biggest prompting events. It's like for my anxiety is leaving the house. So that's when my mind will just start I'll just like go into high mode, and I'm like all over the place. I'm like 10 years ahead of time, and I'm just trying to get in the shower. So one way to help me like not get so out of whack that I'm like don't actually leave the house is I'll get in the shower, and then I'll literally just start telling myself, okay, I'm going to put some shampoo in my hand right now, and I'm just putting shampoo in my hand. Now I'm putting the shampoo and I'm putting it in my hair, and that's all I'm doing right now. Now I'm just lathering my hair. Now I'm just lathering my hair. Now I'm going to put my head under the water, and I'm going to rinse the shampoo out, and that's all I'm going to do. And I'll literally say it out loud sometimes. And I even actually one day I was singing it to myself, the musician in me, and I sent a copy because I recorded it, and as I was getting ready, I had a little handheld recorder, and I sent it to my therapist. She's like, hey, that was pretty skillful. So whatever it is, you can do the dishes at one thing at a time. You can you can walk one step at a time. You can talk, and only be talking, not looking at the TV or not listening, or but the thing is you want to focus on that one task, and it needs, because it'll help you bring you into the present. So if you're worried about the past, worried about the future, one thing at a time will bring you in the now, and hopefully reduce some of your distress. And the last one on this slide is vacation. Now, vacation is not always what you would expect it to be. You don't have to go to Hawaii to get a vacation. Sometimes just taking a little break out of your day is good enough for a vacation. Especially if you're stressed and you're feeling pulled in a bunch of different directions. Taking a little moment to give yourself a teeny tiny little mini vacation might be the difference between you just like totally having a emotional meltdown, or you tolerating the moment and getting through it effectively. So you could take a moment, watch your favorite TV show. If you're like me and you're watching Netflix, watching Lost, then, whatever floats your boat. You could go to the park and lounge in the grass, and just hang out and just kind of enjoy the weather. If you're not in Portland where it rains all the time. Turn off your phone for a day. Yeah, this is not likely for me because I'm kind of a tech junkie, but that would be a good way for you to just kind of take a break, especially if you're somebody who is, a lot of your stress is tied to phone, or you spend a lot of time interacting on the phone, doing business, whatever. Kind of just turn it off for an hour or two, even just for an hour or two, might be just enough for you to get yourself in a calmer state before you tackle the next problem of the day, or the next crisis, whatever, or the next no crisis. So then the last one we're going to talk about is encouragement. Now, if you have borderline personality disorder, or if you're struggling with another disorder like me, you may have problems with invalidating yourself, maybe punishing yourself, saying mean things to yourself. Well, we're going to try doing something different than that. We're going to try validating your efforts, and acknowledging your difficulties and your efforts, and just saying, wow, I can do this. I can get through this. I'm doing the best that I can right now. This will not last forever. I will not give up, and I shall overcome my problems. These are all statements that help you start to build, faith in yourself, and hope that you can get better. Because ultimately, you can overcome your problems. All of these skills are doing is teaching you how to get out what you already have within you. You have all the answers that you need to get yourself into a state where you can feel comfortable with living. DBT doesn't have no magic answers or anything like that. It just is a process for helping you find and connect to your wise mind. But ultimately, you've got to learn how to trust yourself. And part of doing that is encouraging yourself and acknowledging your efforts and believing in yourself. And for me, I don't really believe in myself, and I don't really particularly like myself. I'm trying to learn how to, and I've been practicing loving kindness to do this. And my goal is to think, that if I just keep saying it enough, and I keep practicing it enough, and acting as though I love myself, and as if I have faith in myself, then maybe it will start to happen. It sure as heck can't help. I mean, I've already done the other side, and that didn't get me nowhere but more misery. So we'll see where this leads me. So far, I've had a few good moments, and I've been doing like this love and kindness with one of my peers, and we've been like every night we'll kind of come together and just like send love and kindness to ourselves and to each other, and it's been a really powerful act of self-compassion, that I never really had before, and it's getting me kind of teared up because if you don't know what it's like to love yourself, it can be kind of a strange, even scary experience. But you deserve to be loved, and there's no one in this world that can love you like you can love yourself. So, I encourage you to really try to try these encouraging skills, even if it doesn't naturally, even if you like to punish yourself, even if you're still doing target behaviors, just try it. Can't hurt. Definitely cannot hurt you any more than any of the target behaviors you might be doing. So now we're going to go into self-soothe with the senses. This involves, our sight, sound, taste, touch, hear, smell, whatever. So to self-soothe with the senses, we're thinking about things that engage our senses and in a relaxing, calming way. So with sight, that might be you might watch the sunrise or set. You might go to a local art showing. Go get your nails done. Light a candle. For me, I like to light a candle and just watch the flame. For me, that is a really calming experience. You could get a novelty light. My friend Mama likes like black lights and black light posters and things like that. Or you might be in strobe lights or rainbow lights, or something that engages your vision in a calming, soothing manner. So whatever works for you, it works for you. I don't, so you pick it out. These are just some ideas that'll help you get started. Now, on touch, you can pet your dog or your cat or hug someone. Oh my gosh, I love to hug. Hugs are so underrated. People need to hug, 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 hug. And you are so lucky that I'm far away, because I would be hugging you right now. Take a bubble bath. Have a massage. Here's another one that I've been using a lot lately as I've been practicing loving kindness. Put your hand over your heart, like your flat palm, like right over your heart, and just hold it there and see what that feels like. Notice what it feels like. For me, it feels like I'm loving myself, like I'm soothing myself. I feel like I'm hugging myself, and it's kind of a neat feeling. I've never really had that before. So, but try out some different things, whatever works for you, and the first thing you try might not work, it's a trial and error thing. So if it doesn't work, then try something else, and ask people for ideas. Ask your peers. If you join our group on Facebook, you can ask your peers, and I say, hey, what works for you, or is there anything you can recommend, or what do you think? Da da da. Just mostly you want to find something that works for you. So with sound, yeah, I bet you know what mine is, listening to music. You could sing a favorite song. You could play or learn a new instrument. Download a mindfulness bell. Sometimes for me, just the sound of running water is soothing, just the sound of running water. Or even my air conditioner is soothing because it kind of breaks up the static, that's going on in my head, and it calms me in a way. So sound can be soothing too. And taste. Now, with taste, for those of you who might have target behaviors that are related to eating, this one might be a little bit of a slippery slope for you. So use your best judgment, and if you do have a therapist, talk with your therapist. But do what works for you. And be mindful of whatever your target behaviors might be, so that you are not doing DBT because you think this is what other people are doing. We want you to do DBT because it speaks to because what a task is it speaks to you personally. You could suck on a piece of hard candy, chew your favorite flavor of gum, buy yourself a small gourmet treat, sip a cup of hot chocolate or iced mocha. I like to, there was this gum, they discontinued it, but it was like this extra sugar-free gum, but they had this, it was a chocolate chip mint, and it tasted like it, so for me that was like just enough to be soothing, but it kind of kept me, but because it was a piece of gum, I didn't go and okay, there's a big tub of chocolate chip mint ice cream in the fridge, and I'm gonna go tackle it. So you want to be mindful of using. You want to be soothing, but you don't want to be indulgent. We're just trying to soothe and calm you. And for smell, you can light a scented candle, burn some incense. I like Nag Champa. That's one that's really soothing. I also like lavender essential oil, but my fiance can't stand it, so I don't get to use that stuff very much. But one of my peers brought some into group last night, and that was kind of cool because I miss my lavender. Wear your favorite cologne or your favorite perfume. Get some fresh flowers for your home. Wrap yourself in a blanket right after it comes out of the laundry. Just find what works for you. As I said, I'm going to reiterate that every time and in every video, that's the goal. Don't worry about what I'm doing. Do what works for you. And, when you're asking about that, I'm going to, prod you to find what works for you, because that's what's going to teach you to trust in yourself, and that is going to help on your long-term goals, of becoming your own person and having to rely on other people to be able to calm yourself if you're distressed, which sucks, because that's me. I've just started to learn to soothe myself, and so it's miserable. You have to rely on others to soothe you, and you can't get a hold of somebody. I mean, that's not a fun situation to be in. It can be dangerous if you have other problem behaviors. So, that's why I want to encourage you to start. Even if you don't trust in yourself, start being curious about what would I do? What would work for me? Don't worry about other people think about it. Think about what would be good for you, because that's who's important, you. Now that you know how to pick out some things for self-soothing for the senses, let's make a self-soothe kit. Now, after you get done with this video, I want you to go in your house or wherever to the store, find yourself a little small basket, a purse, a box, or something, that's carryable. And within it, I want you to place at least one soothing item per sense, for every sense, for sight, sound, taste, touch, smell, and keep it in a convenient place where you can get to it quickly in a crisis. So here's one of my self-soothe kits. I've done several of these because I've been through the skills training several times. So you see that I have a Marsha video for my sight, because I love watching Marsha videos when I'm distressed, because when I want to punish myself, she reminds me to be compassionate myself, and I just love that one. She's so awesome. Then you have touch for fan cooling yourself, like, because I have these issues with the panic attacks. A fan, having a hand fan, well, and this is one of my escape behaviors, so I'm gonna eventually, I'm working in the, I'm in exposure right now, so eventually I'm gonna try to get rid of the fan, but for right now, it works for me. And in the summertime, a freeze pack, oh boy, does that help. I love having one of those, like if I'm driving and on, put it like underneath the backs of my knees, or underneath one of my feet, the left foot, that not the one that I'm driving with, or putting it behind my neck, or even under my armpit, or whatever. Just that intense coldness has a calming effect for me. Some ylang ylang oil, essential oil that comes from a flower in Madagascar. I love that stuff. It's really, really concentrated though, so you only need like a teeniest drop. For sound, I have From Suffering to Freedom Through Acceptance CD. It's like guided mindfulness with Marcia. She leads you through some how to get through a crisis without making it worse. Perfect, right? And then for the taste, I have some sleepy time tea, which I find exceptionally calming. But actually, my favoriteest is lemon zinger. But I was out when we were doing this assignment, so I had to go with the second best thing. But find what works for you and put it all in there and keep it around where, so like if you're getting in a crisis and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm like totally like then you can just go, oh yeah, I have my self-soothe kit, and then test it out and see how it works. That it might work for you, and I think it would be pretty cool. We've come to the end of the video. You will have at least a basic understanding of what the different skills are for distress tolerance, including activities, contributing, comparisons, emotion opposites, pushing away, thoughts, sensations, pros and cons, imagery, meaning, prayer, relaxation, one thing at a time, vacation, encouragement, and self-soothe with the senses, which kind of goes in with the sensations. So I know this is a lot of stuff to cover, so you if you want to come back and watch this again, that's great. Or if you want to go to ilovedbt.com and download some worksheets and start practicing some of these skills on your own, that would be a good way to help you start incorporating your skills into everyday life, at least until you can get into a proper DBT program, which I really hope you will be able to do soon, because it's worked wonders for me, and that's why I'm promoting these videos, because they worked for me and I believe in them wholeheartedly, and I hope you will give them a try. And again, if you did not get my contact information at the beginning of the video, here it is again. You can email me at ilovedbt@gmail.com. You can go to my website on ilovedbt.com and see all the blog and stuff I got going on there, or follow me on Twitter at dbtpeers, or you can visit our Facebook page, or you can request to join our closed group on Facebook, where we have over 1,000 members, and there's always somebody like posting 24/7, so it's a good place to go. And we're really skills based. I really try to handpick administrators and really run the group in a way following in the spirit of how a normal group would run, even though we're not doing skills properly, but like the way we exchange and we talk about things. We don't go and talking about crisis behaviors, talking about target behavior, and we just kind of support each other, and help each other get through tough times, because ultimately, the mental health stigma is, it's intense, and it's starting to change, but there's still a lot of shame that goes along with having mental disorders. Well, in this group, you have no reason to be ashamed, because we are all in the same boat, and we are not there to judge you. So if you want to join a group, please come join us. And if not, then hopefully I'll see you again at the next video, which will be emotion regulation. Emotion regulation might be broken down into a couple of different videos, just because there's a bunch of new material that Marcia introduced So there's a lot of great material. So I haven't started them yet, but just be prepared. There might be split into two videos. But until then, it's really great to talk with you again and stay mindful.